Fall is one of my favorite times of the year to start baking, and especially with apples. Apples are my favorite, not pumpkin, even though pumpkin has its place, but for me it's all about apples. I make so many different kinds of desserts, and that's what we're gonna make today. We're gonna make a Swiss apple pie with these beautiful red apples. You guys know how much I love simple recipes, and this is definitely one of them. You don't have to wait very long. There's just a few simple ingredients. And the best part is that even though it's an apple pie, you don't have to roll out the dough. You don't have to wait for it to chill. No crimping edges, nothing like that. It's so easy, and I absolutely love the consistency of it. I think you're gonna really like this one. You can use just about any apples for this recipe, even a combination of different apples, and the consistency and the sweetness or tartness will vary depending on the type of apples that you use. If you want the apples to keep their shape better, not to fall apart as much, then Granny Smith are the perfect baking apples. They're going to be a little bit more tart, and they do keep their shape perfectly. Other apples like McIntosh apples, Empire apples might cook down a bit more. They might have more of a saucy consistency, but that is great with like ice cream or something. So I think either one will work great. I'm gonna use this deep dish pie pan to bake my apple pie in. It'll fit more apples in there. You can use the regular one too. You'll just use less apples. And I already melted some butter that I'm gonna use for the batter, and I used some of it and I just spread it around the bottom and the sides of the pie plate so it's ready to go. I'm gonna start peeling and slicing the apples like you would for pie. The amount of apples that you need for the pie really depends on the size of the apples and the size of your pan. So I just start peeling and slicing, fill up the pie pan until it's almost full, and that's how much apples I need. I ended up using 8 apples, but as you saw, they were on the smaller side. Keep in mind that the apples are gonna reduce in volume as they bake, so you want to fill up the pie plate all the way to the top, otherwise you're gonna have a very small amount of apples. I'm gonna mix the apple filling right in this pie plate. Less dishes for me to wash, plus like I said, this way I can see how much apples I need to use. So I'm gonna sweeten it with some cinnamon sugar. It's just a tablespoon, and cinnamon sugar is just a combination of ground cinnamon and sugar. You can just use the sugar without the cinnamon. It's completely up to you. I'm gonna add in some lemon zest and lemon juice. The lemon zest adds so much awesome flavor to the apples. I really love the combination of apples and lemon zest. And the lemon juice is gonna help to keep the apples tart and keep them from turning brown. And I'm also gonna add a little bit of vanilla, also for flavor. Mix all the apple filling ingredients until they're evenly combined, and then even them out on top. The apple filling is ready to go. I'm gonna set it aside and get started on the batter. And the batter, I'm just gonna use a whisk, a bowl, mix it all together, and then pour it right on top of the apple pie. For the batter, we need some melted butter, granulated sugar, an egg, all-purpose flour, and a pinch of salt. I preheated the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit before I started making this pie, so that's ready to go. And then I also melted some butter, so now it's cooled off. I'm gonna add it to the bowl. Add the sugar, mix that all together, and then add 1 egg. Mix the butter, sugar, and egg mixture until they're evenly combined and the sugar is dissolved, and then add the flour and salt. Keep mixing until the batter is completely smooth. Now I'm just gonna put this batter over top and spread it out as evenly as I can over the apples. get this pie into the preheated oven for 40 to 50 minutes. The time depends on how many apples you're using, and if you're using a regular pie plate, not the deep dish one, you're gonna have to bake it less. Serve this while it's still warm with a scoop of vanilla ice cream, and it is so perfect. I really like the way that the crust turns out in here. It's kind of like a combination of a cookie and a cake, a little bit sandy, tender. It's really good. And why is this called a Swiss apple pie? I have no idea. My mom got this recipe many years ago from one of her coworkers, and that's what she called it, so I kept the name the same. I highly doubt that this is an authentic Swiss recipe, but it doesn't matter because it's so easy to make and so good. Head on over to Olga's Flavor Factory to get the recipe, and I would love to hear what you think when you give it a try and make it for your own family.